Spiders. Why does it have to be spiders?
Brother,
Well, mainly because at some point in our planet's history, these horrific creatures evolved and just sort of never went away. The problem with these animals is they are quite varied in potency, size, and ability to absolutely horrify me. You're gonna hear that a lot actually in this episode. In the events of Infested, or Vermine, over in France, I know right, covering a French movie, I think I suffered brain damage from watching Zombievers for my episode the other day. Anyways, in the events that take place in this movie, an invasive species of spider would be brought back to California 2.0, or would California be France 2.0? I'm not really sure. Either way, it would end up in France. Upon doing so, as the buyer was exceedingly careful with this invasive species, it would break containment and then just start stacking bodies left, right, and center. However, these were not normal spiders. Their ability to grow and reproduce appear to far outclass what would normally be expected of the arachnid species. So what exactly is going on? Well, let's discuss that in today's episode. We kick off our story with this being my box films. Alright then, I like it already. But don't get too excited because I have to stress it is a French film, which means I have tortured my ears so that you can watch this. Actually, what's interesting is every once in a while I would understand words that they were speaking, and just to disclaimer it, you should go watch this regardless and support people who made this, and then come back for the analysis. So as we see a snake crawling through some rocks, a total shitbox drives through the desert. Actually, that's its native habitat. As they unload the truck, it's all gas and machetes. Moving through the sand, I hate sand, it's coarse and it gets everywhere. One guy is moving alone as he checks underneath rocks, looking for something. Finding a larger rock, a hole is under it with several spider webs from the dollar store. Calling out to the whole squad, they then run over with a gas as one guy gets his face dangerously close to that hole. No thanks. Never put your face near a spider hole. Smoking these things out, one then emerges and then goes straight for his throat. See, that was stupid. What did we learn? So first things first, I'm gonna tell you what we learned. We see the first issue arising with these spiders. They appear to have an extremely strong venom, but what's odd is the location would indicate that they are a species that rarely envenomates humans. Known as the buckboar spider, or spore spiders for short, with their name also being velvet spiders. I'm gonna go ahead and butcher this, but belonging to the Ceothyra genus, this species is a burrowing type of spider that enters the sand in order to maintain cooler temperatures while the temperature fluctuates heavily above. What's interesting about them though is the males are rather small actually, about the size of a sugar ant, while the females are much larger. As a result of this, we can assume this burrow is likely filled with females. Typically, however, they will remain somewhat solitary unless conditions become harsher than normal, in which they will move their burrows closer together. But therein lies the first issue with this species that may make it an uncategorized species by modern science, which presents its own issues. This type of animal typically resides within the Namibia Dunes, way to the south in Africa. Their behavior in some capacity and genus name would indicate that they are of the same family, so to speak, however. The location based on where the men are at the beginning would either put them in North Africa or the Middle East, indicating that this particular species separated some time ago to end up here. This has created different hunting techniques, social practices such as existing within a burrow together all the time, and desire to envenomate humans should the need arise. However, we will also see that their growth patterns are no longer congruent with what we would expect from other velvet spiders. I know, we're talking about spiders the whole episode, so... So, the rest then start running out as they don't help their boy, instead capturing some of the spiders as he rolls around in agony in the back before they then take him out. Driving away, these things are being sold assumedly on the black market type of deal, and we now meet blonde-haired dude Caleb looking at rings, complaining about how all this crap is from Dubai. The shop owner tells him to pound sand basically, as he talks about needing something better. But the shop owner has accused him basically of reselling the stuff that he buys, which I don't think that's illegal, so he says it's a gift for his girlfriend though. The shop owner agrees and takes him into the back. Seeing all the spooters and lizards back there, like in the intro sequence, he's drawn to the spiders. Why exactly? No idea. I will never understand why people like spiders. In the immortalized words of Damon Baird, humans are hardwired to react to things that scuttle, and my brother, my jimmies get rustled by these things. Truer statement's never been said. Haggling with the owner, he doesn't know if they're poisonous or not, but decides to take it home. See, here's the thing though, venom is injected, poison is ingested. So it would be venomous, not poisonous. Heading home, well, I guess you could eat the spider and the venom might affect you as well, but anyways, heading home with a spider, which I'm sure his girlfriend's gonna just love. Don't get her like a necklace or anything, why would she want that? Can you sense the sarcasm? These are some very interesting looking buildings. There appears to already be a bug problem, and this is about to add to it. Hooligans then start throwing firecrackers inside, as one does, these damn teenagers, as Caleb takes a bag away from them because that would be really annoying. He then helps the building owner or custodian, I'm not really sure, and then he gets like kind of splashed with trash juice, delicious. Then heading to the basement garage, some dude is stealing bikes down there. Oh, this is just a storage area, that's what it is. I really need to wait before I start asking questions. Storage area is Caleb's shoe-selling warehouse and emporium. Probably shouldn't show that to a thief, right? The thief is there though to buy shoes for another guy. Probably good to entrust your money to a thief, right? Heading into the apartment, looks like my house. His sister is then taking tiles off the wall, so they immediately end up arguing, and you'll find in this movie, things just pop off for discernibly no reason. Ah, such a loving relationship. Entering his room, all of his stuff is turned off, which isn't ideal, as most of the animals require warmth, as they are cold-blooded, requiring exothermic heat to run their bodies. Endothermic metabolism for life. It's a superior way to go. Pro-humanism continues to soar. Looking at the spider he got, no thanks. He then calls it Rihanna and builds a box for it, and this thing is 100% going to escape, good lord. Like, a spider is so easily going to be able to crawl out of a cardboard box, bro. Heading out of the room, he then goes to yell at his sister for turning off all the warming lights and turning it into a right proper domestic dispute. See, pops off for like literally no reason, and not just them, but everyone living in this building. Just drop of a hat. They just go for each other's throats. So they've been arguing over the electric bill. What fun. And she says that they have to sell the apartment, but he doesn't want to because his mom lived there. I mean, I get it, but he assumes his sister doesn't care about their mom because she wants to sell the apartment. Those things don't track. Heading up the hallway, he then goes and talks to his boys, or like it's some sort of get-together. The guy that is standing out front needs a pair of shoes because his are busted. Okay, maybe not his boy. It's kind of a weird interaction they just had. Meeting Claudia, I'm writing this on 0 nutritional intake, and that food looks delicious. He drops off a gift to remember him and his sister by, as then she talks about his mom. Also, Claudia appears to be making a pass. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's just a difference of cultures. Back at the amphibian and insect farm, though, the spider has burrowed its way out of the box. Here we go. And over at the party, they play Mortal Kombat as Bro over here starts just straight lighting up Reefer. They then smack him and they're like, oh, not in front of the old people. So they walk 2 feet towards the window and just light it up over there. Okay, right? So the old man is based as he gets over there and then just throws their MJ out the window. And just remember, this makes people angry every single time I say it, but if you have a genetic predisposition towards schizophrenia, you might never actually have the environmental factors present normally to trigger it, but marijuana has been shown that can actually start this process. So as much as everyone says it's completely safe, much like alcohol, there are drawbacks to it. But hey, I'm not a cop. I still drink beer myself. Getting home, his sister then turned off the power again, like, dude, stop turning off the power. Stay out of my room, bro. Anyways, as he checks the box, he realizes all his animals are likely very cold. Going over to the fun box, though, the spider isn't there. Panic mode engaged. Finding the hole, not ideal. Well, all my almonds are probably about to be activated because of this entire event, so looking around for it, absolutely not. Frustrated, he then finds like a lot of his old bugs have been webbed before finding what he thinks is a cocoon. He bases that opinion on absolutely nothing, it seems. So he throws that in a shoebox because that plan worked so well the first time, the second time it should work equally as well. Waking up the next morning, my man here sleeps on the couch because his animals need his room. Interesting. So he yells at the crew who are working on the house, even though it's like 11 a.m., as seemingly one of the guys, Jordy, is his old friend. So they kind of call Caleb a jerk and continue working. Heading downstairs, a bunch of wheelies in the parking garage is evidently the move as nobody has anything to do ever as Caleb pets a quadruped. Bonding with the dogs transcends culture. He gives TN the sneakers and I'm 100% sure there's a spider in there, and there's a rando approaches eating an apple for some reason, and then there's like this standoff. He talks about Caleb's sister also and just sort of walks off like, all right, bro, there's no need to be weird about it. TN then enters the hallway of death as the lights predictably do not work as the dog runs ahead. Exiting the hallway, he trips up the stairs because his shoes suck. Ditching those, he then puts on his new shoes. Gotta be a spider in there, right? Getting bit immediately, I knew there was a spider in there, but then he goes to look even further and oh my god, hundreds of them crawl beside him. So he smashes it and then looks down again. Oh sweet hell, ah, God! So, his dog then eats the other one as then they jump back over to the apartment. Listen, that was like 5 takes trying to do that. Watching that is abhorrent. I'm sorry, it has to be this way. They're checking out Caleb's stash of animals, discussing the ethics and morality of it all as Caleb enters the room. Oh, it's his old friend. TN then starts blowing up Caleb's phone, but he ignores the calls. His friend is just like as big a nerd as he is when it comes to animals. Like, no wonder Caleb doesn't want to move. He also probably doesn't want to transport all these abominations. I mean, frogs are fine, but scorpions and centipedes too? Stop it. Get some help. Caleb continues to get calls from Tien as he tells them to get out of his room, ignoring the call for the third time. That might be an emergency, bro. Like, I always operate under the assumption that if I ignore the call once and they don't call back, it's not a big deal. But if they call back again immediately, it is an emergency. Only ever had to block one person who I went on a date with. Those were dark times. Anyways, he puts a blanket in front of the door to hold in the heat. Calling Tien back though, it's too late, my man. Tien is over here crashing out from spider bites. Seeing the phone, he does attempt to make a go at it, but he's got venom brain at this point, and then falls on the glass and then starts scratching his bites with it. My brother in Christ, why? Seizing up? Yep, that's pretty much going to be the end of that. So to understand what the spider venom is doing, we need to understand how spider venom actually works on the sensory and neuromuscular junctions of the body. Spider venom contains many peptides and proteins that to some capacity can work to inhibit movement or induce a massive amount of pain. Usually both. Typically when attempting to immobilize prey, spider venom is going to be much more effective on smaller animals, which are basically the creatures that are designed to be paralyzed by this venom. The issue with humans is we are massive in comparison to spiders, so this toxin may take a while moving through the body or may not link up correctly with our nervous system. I always like to tell people the story of when I was going through my EMT schooling. There was a fellow classmate who had gotten bit on her thigh by a brown recluse, which resulted in an infection for the tissue, and it just ended up necrosing. If I recall correctly, it had been like a few years since that, but there were some concerns that she was actually going to lose her leg over it. So even though our size in comparison to spiders is orders of magnitude greater, spider venom is incredibly potent. In the case of this spider venom from this spider that appears to hail from the Ceothyre genus, which, much like other venoms from spiders, we can see that due to the welts forming on the arm of Tien, that there is obviously a necrosing factor as well as an interaction with the nervous system, which we will talk about a little bit later on when we see more examples of it. The necrosing factor is what we'll be focusing on here. Something to understand about the dermonecrotic event taking place currently is, hilariously, we do not necessarily fully understand exactly why it takes place. However, there is an emerging theory on the matter. Essentially, when the spider venom enters the bite wound, we can see that there is like for some reason neutrophils are activated, but spider venom does not activate the neutrophils themselves. As a result, the panic mode must be coming from elsewhere. As the venom continues to work its way through the layers of skin, this is a multi-pronged issue. The first issue is the lytic events of the epithelial cells, specifically the lower dermal layer where the living skin cells actually are. The venom would appear to bind to these cells, somewhere inspiring the cells to release their lytic material in their own cytoplasm, in turn causing the cell to lyse itself. This will begin showing up as welts on the skin, and if you are to survive, much like the EMT woman I know, this opens up an area of your skin where opportunistic infections can breach and infect. With bacteria entering your skin, the infection is pretty bad, but another issue emerges from the same area. The sensory neuronal tissue that is located within the tissue that is currently infected, or at least dealing with the actual venom, is going to indicate pain, as these neurons would be struggling with the same issue of lysing themselves due to envenomation. This would report further up the chain that there is damage to the area that would be disproportionate to the actual damage your body incurred. This is because as the venom spreads, it would cause more and more interactions with your sensory neurons. Essentially, you are receiving nerve damage after this bite, as it would feel like your skin was on fire in that area. We will get more deeply into the discussion concerning the central nervous system a little later on, but primarily right now, the peripheral nervous system would be largely affected in a very localized area. As the venom stays in the skin, this is where the problems continue to arise. We know the venom's lytic ability based on the presentation on the skin, but the blood vessel walls would also be affected. Specifically within brown recluse bites, the blood vessel wall is attacked and opened up, where the venom will begin entering the circulatory system. As this venom circulates around the body, it still has the same lytic capabilities, and as a result, it will kind of be headed towards like the heart, lungs, digestive organs, liver, kidneys, and muscle, but more alarmingly, it's going straight to your brain. Once entering the central nervous system, this is where the problems really become noticeable. And to this end, the comparison I think is safe to say that this is a subspecies of velvet spider and appears to have the potency of a brown recluse bite, as the symptoms are just way more rapid than what would be considered normal, but do follow a very similar pathway concerning pathophysiological presentation. However, once the spiders begin growing, that's where the real transfer of venom would cause issues, because there would be so much. So as Jordy and Matthias, it's probably Matthias, but I'm gonna call him Matt. They run into Claudia as the old man comes down saying Tien's dog keeps barking. The guy from earlier says he's just gonna break down the door, and I mean, someone has to do something, right? Maybe call the French 911, I don't know. Breaking in, they then find Tien has been totally bodied. The cops have arrived as they head upstairs along with EMS. They start talking about what happened as they're told to go home as a precaution. He then tells them that nobody can actually leave the building because they don't know if it's the disease or something else. So of course a fight breaks out in front of the cops. Smart. In fact, I almost did that once. It was really stupid. Actually, I would have been totally decimated in that fight. It's more of a blessing that the cops were there to remind me how stupid I was being. So they pull Tien out, covered up, except for one missing shoe, which alarms Caleb somewhat. That night, they are checking to see if any of them have fevers, but you're gonna psych yourself out and give yourself psychosomatic symptoms, which I have to talk about. It's not gonna be a long section, but do you know how absolutely insane psychosomatic symptoms are? Running in the same vein as the placebo effect, except rather than desirable benefits, they're horrible detriments. Upon hearing specifically what symptoms you may have if there's an illness that you have contracted, you can actually start exhibiting those symptoms of the disease, whatever it might be, tricking yourself into thinking you have it. So let's dissect that for a moment. Your body does not know what symptoms are. It just does it, which, basically the immuno response is going to inspire symptoms, and if your body's dealing with a foreign pathogen. Your brain knows what symptoms are, and because it's stressed and in a panic over a possible contraction, it will somehow direct the body to behave as such, typically through like fatigue, pain, or other issues that can just pop up because your brain is consciously aware of symptoms. So this kind of hints at some very strange things, and these are going to be more questions I'm going to ask you. What are we really? Interestingly, we humans like to think that our bodies are sort of separate from our brains to a degree, right? But as we are also aware, we can be affected by our bodies, but our bodies are us. So why do we have this idea that we are separated from them and they can't affect us? And to that end, why are our brains actually able to affect our bodies? And then to add another layer to just how little we understand our meat suit, why can our brains inspire both positive and negative outcomes that our bodies will present? Why are we able to gaslight ourselves into a physical reality of feeling? This is why literally telling yourself that you're okay when problems are arising around you, like when you probably aren't, isn't always necessarily the unhealthy thing to do. It shows that reality really is what you make it, seeing as your mind-body connection can alter the very way in which the world is perceived and experienced by you. So okay, enough philosophy. So, they talk about what happened to Tien, as Manon accuses Caleb of also selling substances which led to an overdose. He resents these accusations. Matt then says they are insulting each other, as Jordy says this wasn't done by a needle. How do you know that? Did you examine him? They wheeled him by in like 4 seconds. That was not enough time to make that determination. So over at the Hallway of Doom, the owner finishes, custodian, I'm not sure. But there are spider webs everywhere. Well, the bug problem appears to have solved itself, but now you have an arachnid problem. Isn't nature beautiful? Custodian woman then comes back, locked and loaded, Brides of Christ, as she starts raiding everything. Which actually is a great segue. Today's sponsor is Raid Shadow. Also, there are a ton of spiders in the vents, like hundreds. Prometheus clearly got a pregnant spider. So you may be wondering, how exactly? As far as we know, we cannot see any male spiders that were with this female spider. During the lifespan of a spider, it appears as though it may reproduce in a manner similar to how many other spiders do. The female spider will actually store male sperm within its body and choose at any given time which it wants to mate with. However, this does highlight differences in this subspecies, specifically with the spiders located in the Namibia desert, which has one S because you want less desert, you want more dessert, that has 2 S's. These spiders will mate once and give birth to their young, which in turn, the young will then engage in matrophagy, which is when they eat the mother for nutrition. And also, most of these spiders, literally how they meet their end is not because of the end of their life cycle, they just sort of starve to death. That sucks. Then again, they're spiders, so that's okay with me. Don't think for a second that these things dethrone the anglerfish. The anglerfish may as well be like equivalent of 8 spiders. And that's how that's gonna math. So given the distance that these spiders had between them basically, clearly new adaptations were adopted. For instance, again, they lived together in a burrow rather than in solitary kind of burrows that were near each other. Along with this, it would seem that these spiders most definitely mate more than once, as we're about to see, which means multiple different types of stored sperm might be used to create all the spiders that are absolutely swarming this place in just a few minutes. It would seem this spider species will lay eggs as those begin changing and growing, and as we will also see, this results in different sized spiders, with some being absolutely massive. So as Lila washes her hands in the apartment, dozens of spiders enter the room behind her. God. So the vent literally falls off because of them. Somehow she doesn't see these things as she goes to put the vent back on, falling into the shower though. Well, that was almost a broken neck. Seeing the towel move, that's a little strange, and her facial expression looks exactly like my facial expression watching this. Why would you guys suggest this? Pulling the towel back, nothing is there. Oh, psych, it was because it was in the towel. This is what happens when you go looking for a spider. Calling out to Jordy to take care of it, and then runs up her arm and she freaks out as he comes in to do the man duty thing and catch the spider. Walking in, her reaction is mine with spiders. He sees it and then goes to grab it, and like, bro, just smash the thing. Caleb comes in and says, no, don't kill it. Matt knows what's up though and says, dude, just kill the spider. And then this thing is literally lunging at them. So dude, Lila is apparently really scared of spiders, and this really doesn't have to be this big of a thing like they were making it. Lila, like, she's just screaming in the background, like, chill, gal. And then crawls up Jordy as it gets on the outside of the shower, so finally he smashes it. So that spider was Perganonant as it turns into hundreds of little spiders as even more spiders come up out of the drain, giving Lila a massive dose of exposure therapy. So this is a bit strange, however, because there's a second wave of pregnancy that would categorize this species as a spider known as the social spider. I know, right? Does anything sound more horrible than a social spider? But what's interesting is a lot of time amongst these type of spiders, they will interbreed quite regularly, which it ain't great, but I suppose it does work. Because hundreds are released at a time, once hitting maturity, they will start having more eggs, which then turn like they will interbreed. This may result in the unparalleled growth due to overlapping genes of inbreeding. Caleb now realizes, this might be a bit of a problem. Surely this will affect the economy. So they tape up the door to contain and seal away the horror within. They then ask Caleb about how many spiders he had and did any escape. He lies at first, but I mean, the spider room sort of speaks for itself, and he says, no, it's a totally different species. Look, man, it has 8 legs, it needs to go. So he shows them the boxes and they talk about why the babies are so much larger. They suggest maybe they're evolving. That's kind of a quick adaptation process, don't you think? So the thing to remember about inbreeding is it can increase the proportions of genes that are already there. And while the original mother at least created different offspring from likely different fathers, so they're really only half siblings, it's still going to cause the same issues. It's hard to tell at this point what generation it is, but from what I can tell, the spiders increase in size, and this would be indicative of being a separate generation down the line. At first, the spiders are somewhat larger than their mother, but end up being the size of a medium-sized dog. Yeah, wait until you see that, it's nightmare fuel. So as the spiders interbreed, the genes indicating maximum size keep reinforcing one another. Now there is an actual top out size that these spiders could grow due to atmospheric and environmental constraints. Like there's not enough oxygen and they do not have closed circulatory systems. However, for the time being, it does appear to work as oxygen saturation remains sufficient enough to keep them alive and moving. These genes compounding also appear to change their appearance and behavior, making them more aggressive as well, which pretty sure we all know inbreeding is known to do that from time to time. So I don't believe it's an actual adaptation, but really just a runaway problem of your uncle being your dad and cousin at the same time. So they ask where the cocoon is as they realize, oh, it was an egg sac. How did you screw that up, man? You're the spider guy.
My name's the human spider. No, he got my name wrong.
Matt then tapes up that thing really fast. So also the custodian lady is going absolutely lethal on these spiders, but there are always more to be dealt with. The terminid menace ain't gonna take care of itself. The cops now leave the hotel, sealing it off as they don't want to get sick, or they don't really know if anybody's also sick. But wait, isn't this the plot to like wreck or quarantine? The spiders are now also catching birds in the building. I'm not really sure how that works, but custodian lady heads into the back hallway of doom once more and looks above the roof tiles to find, oh no. Raiding up there, she starts fumigating that bad boy because there are spiders everywhere. She is absolutely determined, but looking up there some more, well, one of those spiders basically is a large boy and then it just jump attacks her. The war against the arachnid menace is just starting. So as they keep hanging out in the apartment, Lila then makes a call but can't get anyone. Jordy suggests that they leave as he says they're all going together. The group really doesn't want to involve the cops. I mean, I guess. So they just need to get everyone out of there. Caleb and Manon argue about their mom again for some reason as Caleb says, I won't leave without everyone. Like, quick in and out mission, 15 minutes tops, right? So young Buck is lifting in the mirror, as one does, quoting Robert De Niro. He sees an absolute behemoth spider behind him, and as he turns around, it's gone. Burn down the whole building. They now go door to door telling everyone that they need to leave, but most people are like, I'm not doing that. I'm just staying in my house. Swalger Sass, though, then starts looking for the spider and just leave the room, bro. But seeing it, though, this thing is like quite literally squaring up on him. So he kicks at it, breaking through the wall as there are spider webs all in there. Calling out to Musa back in the hallway, he ain't answering, so that's probably not a good sign, and they end up leaving him to his fate, which is horrible as the walls contain spiders. Spiders are literally living in your walls right now. Running downstairs, more spider webs, Soldier Status then gets just absolutely attacked by spiders as his old man is passed out drunk. So, Operation Save Everyone from Spiders is going about as well as a wet fart on a first date as Caleb breaks into the apartment, finding the TV running and Claudia passed out. Or is she? They go to approach her as she kind of moves somewhat. Of course, you can't hear it, but I did. It sounds like some loose vertebrae, I'll put it. She's then moving somewhat as the spider webs are already near her. Again, not ideal. With her head moving, Caleb reaches out as spiders burst from her. The old man now comes out saying he needs help as he was bitten. Evidently, when you get bitten, spiders come out of your head. Not really sure how they made that equivalency, but okay. So they basically just yell at him to go back to his room, and it's kind of sad, like, go die alone. So because these are burrowing spiders, I would have to assume after taking something down as large as a human, they will then proceed to burrow into the person, entering through the mouth or nose and moving down into the body. Because of their necrotic ability, this would most definitely be used to liquefy prey, which would be anything that they would catch out in the desert. So as a result, this is likely happening within a person as well, as they are consumed from the inside out, which is what happened to the dog earlier. Although it ate the spider, I'm not really sure how it burst out of it, because it's not like, you know, a necromorph spider. Anyways, so apparently nobody is talking about the quarantine apartment complex on the news as they find out. They talk about it and they hear something moving in the apartment. Also should mention, once again, this specific species appears like it can be up to 10 times larger than its mother, which is not great. So Jordy walks back and then slips on something and then finds the dog was taken out by the spider crawling out of its chest. Again, I kind of spoiled that already, but the comparison needed to be made. So yeesh. So the old man then succumbs to his bites after trapping several of the spiders, valiant attempt, as Claudia is spider food at this point and her whole house is infested. Ha! I said it! Swolger is gone as his dad wakes up from his nap and others start getting dropped as well. So Caleb runs back to his apartment as what in the sweet hell? Dude with a tire iron comes out of nowhere and just attacks Caleb. Also, he attacks the MMA fighter, Matt, who's bragging about being an MMA fighter, and he just gets his face absolutely rocked by this dude. Like, where's your training, bro? Caleb then tells the dude not to go into his room, and definitely don't look under his mattress. But heading in, all he finds are the animals and the spider box. Opening up like a caveman, they then start to crawl all over him as the rest of the group exits the apartment with due haste and lock him in with the spiders. Heading to the stairwell of cobweb fun, this is also my nightmare. Lilac's gotta be like freaking out. Heading to the front door, the spiders are guarding the entrance. The lights go off as the spiders have cut power as they head to the garage. Opening the hallway of doom, well, they got a real fun house down here, don't they? Hans, break out the Flammenwerfer. Turning on the light, it then shows how absolutely screwed that they are. They say, well, we have no choice but to go through this hallway. Yet, if I recall, there were way less spiders on the front door. That's all I'm saying. Lila says that she can't do it, don't blame you, as Manon says, you guys go ahead and then I can make a run for it, I'll keep the lights on. Putting on the hoodies and zipping up, massive flail run incoming. Manon says, just go. So Lila starts freaking out the entire way, as I would, as they kind of start making their way through. Manon turns the lights on and then starts to move through herself, but running into the webbing, the lights go off, as then she lights her lighter with a spider next to her head. She bolts as they get to the parking garage, but it's being held shut by the cops. The police are being a real nuisance right now, as they're able to kind of get the door open, but then they just throw a tear gas canister in there. Well, in theory, that should keep the spiders away, right? So the cops fire a few shots into the door as they run back through the hallway of doom. Realizing that they left Jordy in the hallway, Caleb then goes back. However, as he finds him, he's already covered in spiders. No shot at survival. Caleb then heads back out, informing Lila it is too late. You see, he retreated because it's in his blood. Force of habit, they say. Matt then gets blood on his hand as he looks up and sees there's somebody strung up in the webs. That's gonna take a really big spider to do that. He calls out to the squad to inform them that things are continuing to get worse, if you can believe it or not. So they escape as Caleb and Lila have a nice wail over, I guess, losing Jordy, as in the flare goes out. So here we can actually see the effect it has on the central nervous system. As the venom circulates, the neuromuscular junctions beyond the initial bite would also continue to be affected, and this was done by blocking sodium channels of a neuron. As a result of disabling these, the neuron will no longer be able to create an action potential, and as a result of that, communication ceases. This can result in weakness or complete paralysis, and in the case of most people, voluntary muscle control appears to be the first to go, presenting as weakness, eventually turning into a full-blown paralysis, which then, as it continues, likely heads to the heart. This would eventually cause a person to flatline out, as all neurological functions appear to be disrupted by this neurotoxin, likely from issues arising also in the brainstem and spinal cord. This would also likely make breathing exceedingly difficult, and it's hard to know if the person suffocates due to this paralysis of their breathing muscles or suffers a cardiac event leading to the stoppage of the heart, but I am inclined to believe the heart is the first to stop, given the venom enters the circulatory system and comes in direct contact with, the heart earlier on, and you kind of need that to keep pumping. So getting a flashlight, Matt's then checking around and says, if they'll get in if we don't get moving. I guess. So they have a plan. Go up 15 floors and warn the other buildings about the spider outbreak, because why not? Great plan. Operation cannot possibly fail. A third time is a go. Exiting out of the room, they throw a firework to see how many spiders there are. They're a lot, and they're bigger. At the end of the hallway, the spiders have grown much larger, and keeping the light on them, they elect for a much better course of action. Well, it seemed like it. They're gonna throw a Molotov cocktail. Lighting the spiders on fire, they start doing spider screams, which was a little alarming, which then funnels them directly towards the group. Nice job, Caleb. The spiders then seem to stop if the light hits them in the face all of a sudden, which is a little peculiar. And it now becomes a run upstairs as people keep asking for help because they're dealing with their own spider problems. Running into Gilly's house, or Giley's, or whatever his name was, the spiders try the doorknob only to realize they don't have thumbs, so it was a fruitless endeavor. Matt then turns on the generator as they look around for anything to take out the spiders, as they need to get to the roof. So Caleb has another freak out, which sounds hilarious as he's yelling in French as the wind blows through. Lila is looking out the window. Hey, here's a plan. Call down to them and tell them there are a bunch of spiders taking everyone out. I don't know. Might be worth a yell, right? So Caleb comes over to check on her as she asks why he stopped talking to Jordy. Basically, this is how stupid this... Okay, everybody's problem with everybody else isn't solved in a normal human way, and I think it's because they're French, right? That's the only way. So they had a reptile farm, or wanted a reptile farm together, right? Caleb got an iguana. The iguana bit Jordy's leg. That turned into an infection. Caleb got in trouble because Jordy ratted him out about the iguana, right? Because he had to go get surgery. And then because of that, Caleb's like, oh, well, he doesn't want to talk to me, so I didn't visit him in the hospital. And because I didn't visit him in the hospital, he didn't visit me when my mom died. It's like, are y'all for real with this? Bro, it was an iguana. So anyways, thank God the cops show up to finally do police things, and they ask if they were bitten as the cops continue to botch the situation entirely. I mean, did you have to hit Caleb in the area of the skull that was already tenderized by a tire iron? I don't know. So for some reason, it becomes just this massive bar fight. And I mean, is any of this necessary? No. And finally, MMA guy remembers his training and he's gonna do something about something, but then gets maced. Caleb tear gas canisters one cop in the arm. They say this thing was a handheld later, but no way. I don't know. Then he gets maced. Why is this fight even happening right now? So now what's left of the squad gets arrested. Waking up, this man produces just so much saliva if you haven't noticed. How did he go unconscious? Haven't figured that one out either. Sitting up, Lila is already up as the cops then walk around the room. The spiders are being bagged and tagged as Caleb asks where they are, and he's told you're in the parking garage. He starts yelling at them about keeping the door shut as Manon asks why they are tied up. So it becomes a difference of opinion on what the cops should have done, as it typically tends to be. All I'm saying is, I didn't deserve a speeding ticket doing 73 and a 70 that one time, so differences arise. So everyone is totally not jazzed about the outcome of this situation. Yes, you probably should have, I don't know, not started a bar fight with the cops. Could have been an intelligent situation. Matt then shows that he's been bitten. Bro, why not tell them? Anti-venom does exist. All these decisions are based on doing the most stupid thing possible. This is not how a human brain works. Matt then says he's gonna... Is there a gas leak in the parking garage or in this building? And then it's just the second you walk in, your brain is like, oh, I'm just gonna fight. I don't know. Matt then says he's gonna go open the door and release all the spiders so everyone can get out, because that's a brilliant plan. Sounds like you got a real stupid idea there, bro. Good luck. Caleb basically tells him to chill out as Matt makes a break for it. Right into the door, he then tackles the most unobservant cop ever, as then they hear something. And I mean, a can of Raid might be nice at this point. So looking at the door, the spiders start flooding out. And again, you're dealing with spiders, not like alien hordes. Why are y'all not equipped with straight up Raid, fumigation, anything? So everyone starts retreating, because it's in their blood, as Lila gets Caleb untied. One guy gets totally attacked by spiders and is bitten 12 times in the face. That sucks. As they decide to lock themselves in a car. These are not, again, human responses to spiders, is all I'm saying. Caleb then runs with Manon, who's also hiding, as she grabs a fire extinguisher and breaks into the van. Yes, good idea. The spiders will never be able to enter through that broken window, and everyone knows bullets won't penetrate the side of a van. So Caleb gets in and has a leg wound. I have no idea if he was bitten. I think he was just like tagged by a bullet. As Manon says, I care about the apartment and I care about my mom. Like, I don't understand why selling an apartment means you don't care about your dead mother. It's so weird. So hugging it out as the spiders find the broken window, that's not ideal. Then lights start going off along with shots as somebody is flashing their high beams. So they need to make a break for it, then running out, the spiders are just as confused as everyone else. Getting into the car, they then shut the door as Lila then drives out of there, or at least attempts to. Hitting every car, pole, and bike possible, and a couple of cops as well. They unfortunately hit a dead end as a giant spider is in the way. Literally, run over that thing. Caleb realizes that he has to open the door, ram it. That is some, like, straight Papa Roanoke advice. Getting out, the spider is entranced by the lights as he tells Lila to turn them off. As she does, it then kind of skitters away, gross, opening the garage door to the blinding light of the world. Dude, where are you? Why is this like the surface of the sun? Well, time to burn down the whole building. Outside of the building is a tribute to everyone as, okay, there's a picture of Caleb there, right? I'm not tripping. It shows it right next to Matt. But here's what's weird. It never said how he died. It never showed that he died. He escaped. He literally just walked out of the place. So the building is then demolished after extensively fumigating it, probably, hopefully, as Lila and Manon are left. And then, again, what happened to Caleb? I guess, like, was his leg bit and then he succumbed? Or was it just an injury? No, he's actually alive. Why did they put his picture up? So he's out burying a box in the woods with a note to his friend Jordy as then he sits on a tree. As he looks around, oh good, another spider. Grabbing it, dude, what? You know these things are still venomous even if it's a native species. But then he lets it go and sends it on its way, and thus concludes Infested. The spiders are a result of inbreeding a desert spider that already had the potential to grow larger, but was limited by its environment. Upon these genes being reinforced by the inbreeding, this would result in a larger spider that could in turn begin hunting humans to a certain capacity, but are totally reliant on everyone making the worst decision possible. The spiders themselves would be very limited in like how large they could actually grow, as their bodies are not capable of getting any larger than like what it looks like with this, without a dedicated closed circulatory system, because oxygen saturation would become a massive problem. This may have also resulted in the behavioral quirk of sort of like staring into the lights, as inbreeding may have left these spiders less mentally adept in comparison than the earlier generations. All in all, great movie, but what is going on with the French? But I want to hear what you guys think. How ridiculous is it that these spiders grew as much as they did? Like, this is totally not happening. Anyhow, I'll drop my Twitter, Discord, Patreon, and Roanoke Tales channel link, where this week we are talking about the Farmington mine disaster. But speaking of patrons, I'd like to thank mine real quick. First, huge thank you to our astrophysicist, Death's Dancer, as well as our scientists, Chad the Enjoyer of Scientific Explanations B-grade horror movies, Dakota23, Lucian Dragon, Metric System, and Trash Panda in a Trench Coat. And to the rest of my patrons, I appreciate y'all's support as well. It is super helpful towards keeping everything running, and you're absolute ballers. All right, well, that's going to do for me. I hope everyone enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in the next one.